Gentlewoman's recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, and I thank the chairman. President Trump had issued some statements throughout this process saying and urging, insisting that this bill does not cut Medicaid. He's also said some things, he says he doesn't think I'm too much of a smart person. And I'll tell you one thing. It doesn't take a smart person to know if you're being lied to. President Trump, you're either being lied to or you are lying to the American people. Because this bill represents, in the text of this bill, the largest and greatest loss of health care in American history. 17 million Americans will lose their health care on this bill, not undocumented people, not quote unquote the disgusting term illegal, but 17 million Americans will have their health care cut from this bill.
I don't know how much of that $7 trillion is waste, but every fair-minded person would have to agree that there's some money being spent in that $7 trillion that shouldn't be spent. It just shouldn't. It's wasted money. And so President Trump and this Congress made one of its objectives trying to reduce spending. Not spending that we need to reduce, but spending that needs to be reduced. I call it spending porn. And the president has sent us a bill. He's saying to Congress, I want you to reduce spending in the current budget by $9.1 billion.
Imagine a scene in the hallowed halls of the United States Senate. It's not the usual procedural drone. Instead, the politeness evaporates, and a raw, unfiltered clash of ideologies takes center stage. While the specific hearing we're about to break down is a political what-if, it represents a confrontation that is happening every single day in the soul of America. This imagined debate is over a landmark spending cuts BLA rescission package designed to claw back billions in government spending. On one side, you have Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez leading a passionate charge against the bill. On the other, Senator John Kennedy, armed not with outrage, but with cold, hard facts and his signature dose of common sense. What follows is not just a debate, it's a methodical dismantling of an argument, a moment that exposes the deep chasm in Washington's approach to your money. It all boils down to a single, powerful exchange. While one side yells about catastrophic consequences, Senator Kennedy waits, listens, and then delivers the kind of line that would shift the entire tone of a hearing. He wouldn't be loud, he wouldn't be angry. He'd be something far more devastating. He'd be clear. And in that clarity, he would expose the core of the entire debate. The stage is set for a monumental battle over a rescission package, a bill designed to claw back what many see as billions in wasteful and unnecessary government spending. The vote would be razor thin, a testament to the deep divisions not just between parties, but within them. Leading the opposition with fiery indignation would be none other than Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She would take to the floor not just to critique the bill, but to condemn it.
On this point of tax on tips, as one of the only people in this body who has lived off of tips, I want to tell you a little bit about the scam of that text, a little bit of the fine print there. The cap on that is $25,000. While you're jacking up taxes on people who make less than $50,000 across the United States, while taking away their SNAP, while taking away their Medicaid, while kicking them off of the ACA and their health care extensions. So if you're at home and you're living off tips, you do the math. Is that worth it to you? Losing all your health care, not able to feed your babies, not being able to put a diaper on their bottom in exchange for what? This bill is a deal with the devil.
And let me tell you what the spending, what constitutes the spending I want to reduce. Well, first, $9.1 billion out of a $7 trillion budget. We're not talking about a lot of money here. We're talking about 1/10 of 1%. That's all. That's point one. Point two, you need to look at what the president's asking us to cut out. I'll just give you a couple of examples. I didn't make this up. The president is saying we're giving $3 million to Iraq to produce Sesame Street. Maybe we could use that money for something else. The president is saying we're giving $3 million to Zambia for circumcisions and vasectomies. The president's saying we don't need to do that. We've got other priorities. We're giving $500,000 to Rwanda to buy electric buses. The president is saying to us, Congress, we don't need to be spending the money on that. There are more important things. We're spending $67,000 to give insect powder to kids in Madagascar. I don't even know what insect powder is, but the president's asking us to cut it out. We're giving $3,600,000 to Haiti for pastry cooking classes, for cyber cafes, for dance focus groups, for male prostitutes. The president's saying, I don't think so. I don't think that the American people support giving their hard-earned money to male prostitutes in Haiti. So he's asking us to cut it out.
In a passionate speech, she might call such a bill a deal with the devil, a phrase that would immediately ricochet across social media. Her core argument would be drenched in apocalyptic predictions claiming the cuts could trigger a massive loss of health care. Her voice would echo with urgency as she accuses the bill's proponents of manufacturing a crisis to justify what she'd frame as a direct assault on the nation's most vulnerable. According to AOC's consistent political arguments, these cuts aren't about fiscal responsibility. They're about gutting Medicaid, gutting SNAP, and gutting the social safety net that millions rely on. And for what? In her view, it's all a scheme to fund tax giveaways for billionaires and massive corporations, a move she argues would cause the national debt to explode. She wouldn't just speak, she'd command the space, her passionate rhetoric painting a grim picture of a nation on the brink, betrayed by its leaders. Then it would be Senator John Kennedy's turn. The contrast would be immediate and stark. Where AOC is a storm of passion and fury, Kennedy is the calm that follows. He wouldn't try to match her volume. He wouldn't need to. He'd simply lower the temperature in the room with his calm, methodical demeanor. He'd begin not with an attack, but with a simple, foundational principle.
It explodes our national debt. It militarizes our entire economy, and it strips away healthcare and basic dignity of the American people. For what? To give Elon Musk a tax break and billionaires the greedy taking of our nation. We cannot stand for it, and we will not support it. You should be ashamed.
Cut it out. He's asking us to reduce the budget by $833,000 because some of President Biden's bureaucrats gave a contract to transgender people, sex workers, and their clients in Nepal. The president's saying, I don't want to do that. And he's right. That's enough. You get the idea. That's why I call it spending porn. Triggers your gag reflex. You look at this stuff and you go, what in God's name? Who decided to do this? Well, Congress didn't. The bureaucrats did. It's money we appropriated, but we didn't tell them to go spend money, $833,000, and give to sex workers in Nepal. They just took the money we appropriated and used it for that. And so the president is asking us to do what's called a rescission, to cancel the spending. Now, I have listened. I've been here 8 years, Mr. President. And I've listened to a whole bunch of people talk about the need to reduce spending. But you got to watch what people do, not what they say. Because talk is cheap. And around here, I've learned pretty quickly that reducing spending, it's like going to heaven. I want to go to heaven. I bet you want to go to heaven, Mr. President. I bet our guests in the gallery want to go to heaven. But everybody wants to go to heaven. Raise your hand if you're ready to take the trip today. Most people, you are, sir, and I admire that, but most people want to live a little longer. And that's the way it is with reducing spending around here. I want to reduce spending. I support it, but not just yet, because I've got this project. Well, and I've listened to that. And I've especially listened to it for the past 100 days. Go get them, President Trump. Reduce that spending. We're behind you 1,000%. Well, he has. He has. 0.1% he's asking us to reduce. And I'm not saying senators shouldn't ask questions and make some changes if they need to be made, but here's the bottom line. It is gut check time. It is gut check time. You either believe in reducing spending or you don't. And if you talk the game and say, let's reduce spending, and you vote against this bill, in my opinion, you ought to hide your head in a bag. Because you will be able to cut the hypocrisy with a knife. It's real hard, Mr. President, to preach temperance from a bar stool. It's gut check time. We need to pass this bill. I yield the floor, Mr. President.
Taxes are not terribly complicated, he might state, his Louisiana drawl cutting through the tension, a line he has used before to simplify complex issues. It's a simple sentence, but it's the opening salvo in a masterclass of political communication. He'd be shifting the entire frame of the debate. This isn't about a lack of compassion, as his opponents claim. This is about a lack of common sense in how Washington spends the people's money. He'd remind the chamber that the money they're fighting over isn't leprechaun money. It was earned by the American people, who expect their government to be responsible stewards of their hard-earned cash. He would likely agree that not all government spending is wasteful, but make it clear that a significant portion of it is, and that turning a blind eye to that waste is a profound betrayal of public trust. This would set the stage for the dismantling. Kennedy wouldn't fight on AOC's emotional battlefield. He would pull back the curtain and show everyone what she was, perhaps unknowingly, defending. He'd be ready to talk about the facts. This is where the takedown would truly begin. Senator Kennedy, calmly and with a slight hint of disbelief in his voice, would start to list the kind of specific programs that go viral as examples of government waste. He wouldn't be dealing in hypotheticals, he'd be dealing in receipts, whether from official reports or from lists circulating that have captured public outrage. He'd lay out the absurdity of where American tax dollars have allegedly gone, using examples that sound more like punchlines than actual government programs. He might mention the millions of dollars sent to fund a version of Sesame Street in Iraq. He'd pause, letting the ridiculousness of it sink in. While families in America struggle, their money was funding puppet shows overseas. But he'd just be getting started. He might then bring up funding for a transgender opera in Colombia or a DEI-focused musical in Ireland, projects that have been criticized as frivolous uses of taxpayer money. He could calmly read from a list, exposing item after item of what he has called spending that triggers your gag reflex. Kennedy would argue that if you listen to his Democratic colleagues, cutting even a tiny fraction of the budget would cause civilization to melt. Yet, here would be the proof of what that tiny fraction of spending often is. It isn't always life-saving medicine or critical infrastructure. It's a portfolio of bizarre and questionable projects that have little to no direct benefit for the American people who are forced to pay for them. The climax of the hearing would arrive after AOC, in a final, impassioned plea, doubles down on her argument, accusing Kennedy and his colleagues of robbing the poor to give to the rich. Her voice would be filled with moral outrage. She would be playing to the cameras, to her base, and to the narrative of conservative cruelty. Senator Kennedy would simply wait. He'd let the echo of her accusations fade. He wouldn't interrupt. He wouldn't shout. He'd just sit there, the picture of patience, allowing her argument to hang in the air, unsupported by the facts he had just laid bare. Then he'd lean into the microphone. He'd look directly at her and, with a tone that was more disappointed than angry, deliver the final, brutal blow. He might say, with all due respect, that the Congresswoman is clearly passionate. But passion doesn't balance a budget. Passion doesn't make absurd spending logical. He'd explain that the American people didn't send them to Washington to feel passionate, they sent them to be prudent, to be responsible, to be the adults in the room. He'd then pose a simple question, not just to her, but to the entire chamber, much like he has in the past. Which of these programs are you willing to defend? Are you willing to look your constituents in the eye and tell them that funding some of these foreign projects is more important than fixing the roads in their town? There would be silence. The fire from AOC's side would be gone, replaced by a stunned quiet. He would have not just refuted her argument, he would have rendered it irrelevant. He would have transformed her passionate crusade into a defense of the indefensible. It would be a masterstroke of rhetoric, a moment where common sense brutally triumphs over emotional outrage. In the aftermath of such a hearing, political commentators would scramble to analyze what had just happened. It would become clear that this was a significant moment. While AOC would have commanded the space with her volume and emotion, Senator Kennedy would have commanded the debate with logic and substance. His calm, methodical approach would act as what one observer might call rhetorical ballast, grounding the entire conversation in reality. He wouldn't allow the debate to float away into the ether of abstract social justice claims. He'd anchor it to the specific, undeniable facts of the budget itself. He would force a confrontation not with a political opponent, but with the truth of where the money was actually going. Kennedy's strategy is brilliant in its simplicity. He understands that you can't always win a shouting match with a master of outrage politics. Instead, you change the terms of the debate. You expose the weakness of the opposing argument not by attacking it head-on, but by methodically chipping away at its foundation until it collapses under the weight of its own absurdity. He would prove that in a political world saturated with performance and passion, the quiet, relentless application of facts and common sense could be the most powerful weapon of all. Now, we want to turn the question over to you. Whose ideology do you find more compelling? Do you believe, like AOC, that spending cuts represent a dangerous attack on essential services? Or do you side with Senator Kennedy's assertion that it's high time we stop the insanity of wasteful government? Spending? Was this a brutal takedown based on facts, or a misrepresentation of a complex issue? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. We read every single one, and if you believe these are the kinds of debates the mainstream media won't show you, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more breakdowns that get straight to the point. This hypothetical exchange is more than just a viral moment waiting to happen. It's a perfect encapsulation of the two warring ideologies that define our modern political landscape. One side believes the government is the solution and that any reduction in its scope is a threat to the people it serves. The other believes that an overgrown, unaccountable government has become the problem, wasting the people's wealth on projects that are foolish at best and corrupt at worst. This battle over spending cuts is just one skirmish in a much larger war over the future of America's fiscal soul. And as this imagined hearing proves, the fight is far from over.